All right, everybody, and welcome back to episode 19 of Show Choir Nation, the flagship podcast of the Homeroom Show Choir Network. I'm your host, William. Alongside me to the right is Ethan, and below me is Michael. Ethan, how are you on this fine Monday evening?
Doing good, Will. I'm doing real good. A lot of snow. I just got done, I guess, playing in the snow. Doing a little shoveling. So what? Yeah, it's kind of crazy over here because it kind of just hit in one night and schools get canceled and all that stuff, so on and so forth. So it's a little cold over here. But besides that, I'm doing well. I'm doing well, Will.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that basically all the interstates down in your neck of the woods were closed at some point or another.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just hunkered down and you're not traveling anywhere, I'm glad that you're safe. Michael, any snow up in the Northeast?
Actually, today it did snow in Connecticut and Rhode Island. I work in Connecticut but live in Rhode Island. We got 2 or 3 inches, so probably not as much as Ethan, Illinois. However, I am in my comfy. I have my slippers on. I am freezing in my own house right now. I have the fireplace going. So, we're just trying to make it through. But overall, doing really, really well.
Awesome. And I think all three of us, at least for a little bit at some point last Saturday, were able to get in on the first couple show choir competitions of the season. We say this every year, but the fact that these groups have shows ready to go, they put them on stage, not just for comments, but for critiques, for numbers, for placements, all that. And every year we are all like the people at the competition, the people watching the live stream, we're all just blown away at the caliber of shows that are ready this early in the season. And of course, we're going to be feeling some more of that just down the road this next weekend as well. We've got 5 more competitions on tap that we will be covering in the back half of this episode. Besides for that, boy, the show choir season is here. Almost before we know it, I feel like we almost had a little bit of a run-up period, but it's here. And we're going to talk a bit about the season as a whole in the middle part of our podcast. But honestly, that's going to be it in terms of like season-wide coverage that we do on this podcast, because 5 competitions this upcoming weekend, and then we're blasting off into a dozen plus competitions every weekend until the middle to end of March. And although that may seem like a long ways away on January 6th, that March 22nd, March 29th date is going to come up way quicker. Then we know you can catch me at the Skyhawk International Showcase in West Lebanon, Indiana on March 29th. Just putting it out there. I don't know of anyone who's signed up, so if you have signed up, drop a comment and let us know. Enough of my pontificating. We will jump right into the competitions from this past weekend. We're going to jump into the competition with a live stream, the competition with more groups, the competition with perhaps a couple more juicier storylines that we have coming out of it, and that is the Holman Gathering. The results out of this one: Onalaska Hilltoppers taking the grand championship as well as best vocals. Sparta Upstage Adrenaline, first runner-up, best choreography and best band. La Crosse River City Revolution, second runner-up. Sioux Falls Jefferson Legacy, third runner-up. Sauk Prairie Executive Session, fourth runner-up. And Nina Vintage, fifth runner-up. Michael, I will toss this one to you first. I believe you saw a few of these groups on the live stream. Just first thoughts, or one group in particular out of that list that stands out to you?
So, yes, I spent Saturday watching Wisconsin Show Choir for like the first time ever. I was genuinely impressed with how advanced some of these shows were for such an early competition in the season. I don't know when Wisconsin usually starts.
It is always this weekend. As a born and bred Wisconsinite, for the first 3 years of high school, like I had no idea that it was out of the norm to wait until after the first weekend of January to start competing, because it's just kind of been tradition. Like a lot of these first weekends in Wisconsin, like there are not 1 but 2 schools that host competitions, and they don't get canceled for lack of numbers. That's for sure. I think a couple weekends in the late 2010s, there were even 3. There were Colby, Parkview, and Viterbo. None of those host anymore, which is ironic, kind of sad, changing of the times. But the fact that there are still plenty enough groups in Wisconsin and occasionally Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa that want to go out and compete that first weekend, that yes, there are enough groups. And as we see, like you're saying, I'll toss it back to you, they're locked and loaded and ready to go for that first weekend in January.
Yeah, so I was more thinking about like the rehearsal side of things, because I know in like in Indiana or Iowa, they usually start in that like July, August timeframe. In New England, usually our groups, they can start anywhere in September or as late as November. So Wisconsin, you guys definitely showed out. I was thoroughly impressed with Sparta. This was their first year. I believe they used Kevin Chase as a choreographer.
Correct. This is their first year of Kevin Chase.
And that closer, man, that closer was so good. I love Crazy Train. So kudos to all the Sparta kiddos. It was really, really, really good. Really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I just have to hop in on Sparta for a bit because Sparta's first season of competition, not counting the few years in the 70s that they were active, was my freshman year of high school. And so this is a group that I feel a pretty special attachment to because they came on the show choir scene right as I did as well. And they moved up to varsity just a few years ago for the 2023 season. And they won their first competition at the very end of last season. And I would almost argue that this is a bigger moment in their program history and one of the biggest ones because you're taking second at a competition that was pretty loaded. You know, there were 6 solid groups in finals. You're not like, oh, I wonder who's going to fill out that 6th spot, you know. And they took choreography away from Onalaska, which is Jared Voss, Tori Brindis this year, Rachel Schenecker. No big accomplishment, or no small accomplishment, I should say, and also taking best band as well. Ethan, what is a storyline or a group that stood out to you from Holmen?
No, yeah, just real quick, keep it on the Sparta train. I mean, so Sparta, they were 5th last year at this competition, Will. They were 5th. Now they're in 2nd with Best Choreo. That is insane. It's a group that's been growing, getting better and better. This is their best finish to start a season since 2017 in any division. And they were in prep division. That last time was their highest placement. So kudos to them. They're doing amazing work at Sparta. But you have to talk about Onalaska again. They win another big comp. But, I mean, it doesn't diminish the comp at all or the win at all for Onalaska. Still a great win. I looked back. So I know Will loves his stats. So, Will, I looked back and I was like, I'm going to look back at the last 5 seasons Onalaska has won their first competition that they attended. They average out around 4 wins a season. So that's a pretty good sign for Onalaska to begin this season. And then I just have to jump on the new choir in town. Well, new choir in town, Lacrosse River City. They blew me away. I know they didn't do the storyline prediction that I thought was going to happen, but granted, they showed out and their placement shows why they did. So congratulations to them. It's not easy coming together and doing a comp this early. So kudos to every group that performed, and excited to see where Wisconsin goes, Will.
Yeah, I was super interested to see how Lacrosse would do as well. Their department store show to me reminds me more of a couple of the recent Central shows than a couple of the recent Logan shows. So maybe that's not a fair assumption to make, but that was just kind of the first vibes that I got from the group. A couple other groups that I want to mention as well. Neenah made finals in their first competition as a Jeff Jordan group. So Jeff Jordan breaking back into Wisconsin. He was part of the Milton team for a little bit, for a couple of years, but he really hadn't been doing any groups in Wisconsin. So Jeff Jordan returning to Wisconsin Show Choir with Neenah, and a solid finals appearance for Neenah. They were actually, if my memory recalls, very last in the varsity division at Holmen last year. That would have been 14th place. Maybe they were 13th place, but they took a pretty big time penalty at Holmen last year. And I'm super happy for them to be starting off the season on a much better foot in 2025 than they were in 2024. I also have to give a shout out to Onalaska as well. Their prep group Express pretty much cleaned house in the prep division as well. Just a super solid showing for Onalaska and a very, very good start to the season for that program. Obviously, no Waconia this year, no Cedar Rapids, Washington this year at Holmen. They'll run up against their regional powers starting in 2 weeks at West Salem. So it's not an easy win by any stretch of the imagination, but they have that win, that first win under their belt for the season. The other competition this past weekend was the Tomah Cranberry Jamboree. This was Tomah's first competition that they hosted in roughly 20 years. The last one was kind of on the extreme opposite end of the schedule. It was in like late March, early April, somewhat. The Cranberry Jamboree this time around being hosted the first weekend of January, the El Paso Gridley Modulations, grand champions, best vocals, best choreography, best band. New London Vision, first runner-up. West Salem Sensations, second runner-up. El Paso Gridley High Fidelity, third runner-up. Eau Claire Memorial Old Abe Show Choir, fourth runner-up. And West Salem Vivace, fifth runner-up. Ethan, you did me kind of dirty with a meme on the Homeroom Instagram page earlier today. You said something like El Paso Gridley and the Chicago Bears both winning in Wisconsin this weekend. This is not a sports ball podcast.
No,
if there are any viewers who know what we're talking about, feel free to drop a comment, and we might do a little bit of sports ball talk if requested. But you're the Illinois guy. You see the El Paso Gridley kids a lot more than I do. Were you expecting anything else besides an El Paso Gridley sweep here?
No, I wasn't, and I'm sorry, Will. I gotta take my wins when I can take my wins, so I do apologize, but no, pretty much everyone thought El Paso's was this comp was theirs to lose, almost like if they messed it up, then someone else would win, but they came out and they showed. I haven't gotten to see the show yet, but I heard it was pretty good. It's pretty solid. El Paso is kind of a stranger to winning this early, though. They always go to these early comps, but they really don't get the result that they are looking for. I know they go to Des Moines Christian a few times, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Wait, did you just say Des Moines Christian?
No, if I did, I apologize. I'm talking too fast. Des Moines. So I apologize. But first win to start a season since 2018. That's huge for them, especially after last year. This is the step that they needed to take if they want to continue the ball rolling for El Paso. And then I know Will's going to get so geeked out about New London, so I won't get too far into it. But just looking back a few years, this was a group that went 26 comps in a row without getting a placement. 26 comps in a row from 2013 to 2022. So passed through the whole pandemic and everything. And they stayed with it, and now they get second place at a competition. That actually kind of blows my mind. Speaking because of how many amazing and historic groups we've lost because of the pandemic, to see a group who, doesn't have that much success and then turn it around post-pandemic is kind of crazy. And you hate to play that game where it's like, well, imagine if El Paso decided not to go to an out-of-state competition or go to this one. They could have won this competition. Granted, El Paso was at this competition and they won it fair and square, but you have to give the love to New London. And that's pretty much my whole thing on this competition. Congratulations to Toma on hosting their first. That's really hard to do in today's age. Not a lot of people are starting new competitions. They're kind of very scarce every now and then. I don't know how many new competitions are in Wisconsin, Will, recently, off the top of my dome.
This year we've got Toma and Medford. Looking back a couple of years, Green Bay Southwest had a 3-year run from 22 to 24. Besides that, De Pere was a new competition for the 2020 season. Just let me take a second to take a look back. But yeah, there's been a lot more competitions folding in Wisconsin than new ones, like just some of the ones we've lost in the past 5 years. Parkview, Burlington, Viterbo, the La Crosse Central and Logan are kind of combined into one now. Broadhead is gone. So yeah, I think having 2 new competitions in Wisconsin this year is a very big thing.
So congratulations, Toma, and to all the volunteers and students and everyone behind the whole scene. From what I heard, it was a great competition. So good job, Toma.
Absolutely. And Michael, before we kick this one to you, I am just going to take a second to brag on my New London Vision. We have a comment from Nathan Ensley. New London came out of nowhere, and New London, vis-a-vis where I grew up, was in the handful of closest programs to where I grew up. And kind of like Ethan was saying, this was a group that back when I was in high school, they would show up, they would have fun. In 2020, they did a shoe-themed show, so there was JoJo Siwa in there and all this kind of fun stuff. But it was a group where maybe in 2020 they were starting to turn a corner, but for a while, maybe from 16 to 19, you knew that they weren't really going to contend for finals. And they had a change in leadership in there in both the director side and the choreographer side. And Kevin Spindler and Kevin Chase have done so many good things at New London. Their 2022 show just absolutely set the standard for a new era of leadership for that program. And the finals placements were immediate starting in 2022 and through 2023. They had a little bit of a rockier season in 2024. I still don't really know how they missed finals at Fort Atkinson, but to see them start off 2025 with their best placement since 2006. This is a group that, to the best of my knowledge, has never won a competition. The last time they were second was 2006. I'm not even going to play the what if game. What if El Paso never came? Because that El Paso is going to compete somewhere as early as they can. And when you only have two options, you only have two options.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to play that game, but I am just going to say that it's a great start for New London. They're going to kind of run into the blender a little bit with a couple of tough competitions later in January. So I am super happy that they got a phenomenal placement right off the bat. Michael, we also saw two girls groups in finals. They placed 4th and 6th. And anything from the single gender realm that you want to give your flowers to?
I'm a huge hi-fi stan. I love El Paso Gridley High Fidelity. I think that it's a criminally underrated choir, not just in Illinois, but in the Midwest. They always put on high energy, fun shows. Those pink and green dresses from last year, kudos. Loved any decisions on that side of things. I believe their choreographer is Mike Talamati.
Mm-hmm. He's an alumni of the program.
Oh, sweet.
Wait, I thought Michael Talamani was a Mantino alum.
I thought he was.
Oh, he was. That's why I got him mixed up. Sorry, I get those two mixed up all the time.
They're very close.
I apologize. I think of purple, and this is where it goes.
It's just, I think that John Schaefer does a very good job at running that program. For a school that's only like 350 kids, and to have 60 to 70 kids in your program, that's literally almost a third of the school. Amazing stuff. I was thinking that they were going to be coming in second at this comp. However, I was sadly mistaken. I can't wait to see their show. I don't have a Facebook, so I couldn't go and watch it. And I'm not too sure about these other Wisconsin groups. However, I will give them a watch as soon as I can. I think that going into this season, though, the fact that they've made finals is definitely slating them to keep on a trajectory upwards. And I can't wait to see what they come out and do with their next comp.
Yeah, I think when you talk about a couple of those other Wisconsin groups, one I really want to highlight is West Salem. Again, this is kind of a smaller school in that same realm as El Paso Gridley. West Salem, a couple handfuls of miles outside of La Crosse, just like El Paso Gridley is a couple handfuls of miles outside of the Bloomington Normal area in Illinois. Again, a small school with two groups. Their girls group, Vivace, came back this year after taking the year off in 2024. And the mixed group, Sensations, placing third with their Clue-themed show. I feel like every few years, West Salem just has a competition where they really pop off. They beat groups that people think that they shouldn't be beating. I think of Eau Claire Winterfest, I think 2019, maybe 2020, where they came all the way up to a really shock second place finish. So if West Salem is shocking people again this year, I'll be super happy about that. Eau Claire Memorial, also solid finals appearance for them in 5th place. Those were the two competitions this past weekend. We'll dive into a little bit more of an interpretive segment now, and that will be competitions that we are looking forward to. I know if you joined Ethan and I, along with Nathan, for our preseason episode in November, we talked a little bit about Chesterton, and we might talk about Chesterton a little bit, but I think Chesterton aside, and this can be from any region of the country, your home region, somewhere else, any point in time during the year. Michael, I'll put this one to you first. What is a competition or two that you are really, really looking forward to this year?
Ooh, good question. So if I'm just looking at New England right now, I have to give a shameless plug to Bishop Hendricken. They always run a fabulous competition. The majority of New England groups come, and actually this year there's going to be 7 different states represented. We have Pendleton from Indiana coming out, as well as a couple other groups that I'm unsure of yet, but we'll see. We'll see when it comes down to it. I'm going to be doing best performer judging there, which is going to be an awesome time. It's going to be the first, it's either going to be the first or second time that I see the new Lowell Sound Impressions and Sound Stations with one of my best buddies, Evan Cavalier, as director and using Stephen Todd as a choreographer. So I'm very, very, very excited. And then on top of that, Show Choir Nationals is looking to be really crazy this year. I'm excited that Daniel Hand is making their making their trek down there for the first time since, I believe, 2018. And this year is their 25th anniversary of being a show choir. So they're going to be going in at no stops. And last but not least, Franklin Central this year. I always love Franklin Central's comp. There's also another New England group that's going to be going out to Franklin Central. And I don't know if it's public yet, but I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm going to be watching that competition like a hawk. So those are my top 3 competitions for right now. It's probably going to shift a little bit during the year. But yeah, those are some of the ones that I have my eye on.
Just the lineup for Franklin Central real quick in no particular order. We have Fisher's Electrum, Glenwood Titan Fever, Center Grove Sound System, Carmel Ambassadors, Tupelo Synergy, Newcastle Red Hot Blues, Roncalli Royal Rhapsody, Troy Buchanan Express, Pendleton Heights Pendletones, New Palestine Crimson Heat, Batesville Singers, and a yet-to-be-named New England group at Franklin Central. So there's certainly, those were just mixed groups or one group from a program that I was reading off, but there's so many programs in there that have multiple groups that could really challenge. And when you look at Tupelo Synergy coming up from Mississippi and challenging Fisher Sound, who a lot of people think is one of the best single gender groups in the country right now, and challenging Center Grove Deptones, who came out on top at Show Choir Nationals, I believe, and the Carmel Accents, and all of this kind of stuff. I think Franklin Central is going to be phenomenal this year again. The Going Nationals lineup, this is certainly not everyone, but this is just the groups that we have intel on that are going. Madison Central Reveille from Mississippi, Carmel Ambassadors from Indiana, Pedal Soundstations also from Mississippi, Zionsville Royal Airs from Indiana, Auburn Varsity Singers from Alabama, the aforementioned Daniel Hand Vibe from Connecticut, and Los Alamitos Sound Effects from California. Ethan, what is a competition or two that you are really looking forward to this year?
So I kind of went off track a little bit. I wanted to pick 2 competitions that we eventually will be talking about in detail at some point because they're that good, but they might not be getting all the shine right now. And the first one that came to my head was one that's severely overlooked because of another competition on that day, but Urbandale sticks out to me so much. Now their champion from the previous season is going to Chesterton, but I think this competition lineup maybe got better. I mean, looking at it right now, off the groups that I know, Broken Arrow, Johnson, Waukee Northwest, Millard West, Mitchell. That's 5 groups that are insanely good and almost, I don't know who's going to win this one. Like, if you told me to make a prediction right now, I couldn't. Luckily, this isn't going to be their first competitions, I believe. This is going to be a little bit down the road. So they'll get their feet in the ground, and then I can make a real prediction on this competition. But very excited to see Urbandale. And the other one is, I'm kind of going off base here. I've rarely talked about this competition. I don't know much about it, but Standing Bear this season. Will, you definitely did not think I was going to say Standing Bear this season for a competition of mine.
I did not.
But I just couldn't go away from the potential 3 matchup of Gretna, Lincoln East, Lincoln Southwest. 12 grand championships from last season from those 3 groups alone going up against each other. And some quick stats because I had to look them up. Gretna has never beaten Lincoln Southwest. They're 0-7. And after last season, they could have bested them last season. But again, Lincoln Southwest, you must give them their flowers. Their Chicken Little show was one of the best I've seen all season. And against Lincoln East, they're 0-1. They've only gone up against one time against Lincoln East, to my knowledge. And then the all-time matchup between Lincoln Southwest and Lincoln East is at 8-7 in favor of Lincoln East. So that's up to grabs almost. I like those little matchups. That's like 3 heavyweights from the state going at each other. There's just something about it, something that's tense, something that actually means something. Sports talk, it's almost like bowl games. Bowl games mean something in college football.
No, they do. No,
yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
The Duke's Mayo Bowl does not mean a thing.
Yes, it does. Like the Pop-Tart Bowl, you got to tell me you were not at least tuned into the Pop-Tart Bowl.
I was watching the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yes, you were. That's what I mean. But basically, this is a competition that I can't wait to see what happens. Will, do you have any?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about Standing Bear is that this is an inaugural competition. We were talking about inaugural competitions with Toma. Standing Bear, this is only the second school year that Standing Bear as a school is even open. And I've said it before on the podcast. I'll say it again. Lincoln Public Schools opening just so many new schools left, right, and center. We have Standing Bear that is coming into the scene this year after spending last year as a non-competitive group. We have Lincoln Northwest, which has been on the scene for a couple seasons now. And the growth is not stopping in Lincoln. So just the sheer amount of talent that will soon, that is here, that's coming out of the Lincoln metro area is just going to be insane. Lincoln East and Gretna are going to see each other 4 times this year. So that's going to be a real battle of like, can someone hold that entire season? Like, is Gretna going to hold that entire season? Is Lincoln East going to hold that entire season? Or are we going to see one group start out stronger and one group finish stronger? Are we going to see them flip-flopping the entire season? That's a matchup that throughout the season, I think our Nebraska Show Choir fans are really going to enjoy seeing, especially because it's an Omaha group and it's a Lincoln group. You're kind of mixing 2 of the traditional show choir cliques. And I think it's going to be a matchup for the ages here. Honestly, we had a comment right here earlier in the chat from Nathan. It says Chesterton, Urbandale, and Center Grove is a stacked weekend. I just wanted to talk about the weekend of February 15th because there is so much going on. I think February 15th and February 22nd are going to be a couple of the biggest shows in show choir this year. We have Ben Davis, which is going to be an absolutely stretched full Indianapolis competition. I think there are like 20 something groups signed up to go. We have John Burroughs debuting their show out in California this weekend. We obviously have Center Grove, which is mentioned in the comment. That's going to be Franklin Central, Zionsville, and North Central. We have Chesterton, which we've talked about ad nauseum. We have Davenport Central, which is going to have Southeast Polk, Prairie, Glenwood, Xavier, Mundelein, Davenport North. We have Homewood, which is going to round up all the usual suspects in the South, besides for, I believe, Clinton this year. We have Medina in Ohio, which is going to be Fairfield, Manchester, and Solon. We have Neosho, which is pretty much the big get-together in southwestern Missouri, save for the host choir themselves. We also have Olentangy in Ohio. That's going to be Grove City, Loveland, Marysville, Findlay, Homestead. We also just have so many different things like Waconia in Minnesota. It's going to be Bloomington, Kennedy, Bemidji, a couple of those as well. We also have just so much else going on. We have West Jones in Mississippi. We have a couple in Illinois going on. There's just so much happening that weekend on February 15th. And February 22nd as well is going to be an absolutely monster weekend. We have Franklin Central. We have Homestead. We have Hastings up in Minnesota. We have Petal in Mississippi, and everyone is going to that. We have El Paso Gridley in Illinois, and it feels like most people in Illinois are going to that. So just kind of that late February stack is what I'm looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to parsing these podcast episodes down to 1 hour, but I am looking forward to just the sheer volume of fantastic show choir that is going to be going on. I know I just rattled off a ton of stuff. Any other thoughts or comments about competitions that we're excited to watch this year?
I'm excited. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a great season. I can't wait. I feel like this season's going to be somehow above last year's, which was amazing as well.
I'm right with you, Ethan. One other competition that just came to mind is of Nebraska. Millard West this year. I'm excited to see what Brio does against some of these Nebraska groups for the first time ever. Coming up from, are they Missouri? No, where are they from?
Mississippi
all the way to Nebraska. I don't know how far that is. I'm geographically challenged. So I think it's definitely going to be very interesting this upcoming year. Very, very, very excited.
Yeah. All right. And we're going to get straight into the exciting part, which is competition previews. We've got 5 competitions coming up this upcoming weekend. We will cover them in alphabetical order. First up, we have the Des Moines Christian Illumination in Iowa. There are no S sounds at the end of Des Moines, either word, despite the S's that are there. I feel like some of us might need a gentle reminder about that. Also, there is no P sound at the end of the word coup, just a yearly reminder for that. Go watch our greatest hits video from last season if you want the rundown on that. But in the mixed division, we have Waukee Millennium, Cedar Rapids, Washington Momentum, Indianola Side 1, Xavier Exhilaration, Norwalk Sound Revolution, Dallas Center Grimes Momentum, and Keota Eagle Rock. In the prep division, Waukee Spirit, Cedar Rapids, Washington Celebration, Indianola Flipside, Norwalk Sound Adrenaline, and DCG Acceleration. And in the women's division, we have Xavier Exuberance and Omaha Mercy, the Troublemakers, coming over to start their season in Iowa to get a week's head start on the rest of Nebraska. I think the first point that I just want to toss to both other people is that we have a director change at Waukee. Tony Dam and Jeff Knutson have flipped groups. So Tony Dam is now the Millennium director and Jeff Knutson is now the Spirit director. Ethan or Michael, what are the fortunes for Waukee this year?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell, but I know from what I've heard is Tony Dam is one heck of a director. And Waukee is one heck of a group. Mm-hmm. They're always battling. They always have numbers. Waukee is one of those groups that I see like their group picture. I'm like, how do they have so many kids every single time? I don't know how they do it. I feel like they have such a good backbone to them. And I think Tony Dam is just going to add to it. Now to see how far they go this season, I don't know, because I feel like that whole region is just exploding with talented groups. So who knows? Maybe they do take a step back real fast, but maybe they'll get right back up on that horse.
Again, right there with you, Ethan. I'm excited to see Waukee have the new director in place. However, since it's someone who's already internal to the program, it may already be that Tony has had some of these kids as his students. So it's just a continuation. They know how he works. They know, and he knows how they work. So I'm thinking that if they're coming in swinging like they did last year, with a more story or thematic show, that this will be another step to elevate them. They're using Tori, Jared, and Peyton Bellman again this year, which again, continuation with choreographers usually means that there's a standard, for the kids. So Waukee is definitely one to watch. And then also all the Cedar Rapids groups, I'm very excited to see what they come out and do this year. I've started watching a lot more of the Cedar Rapids programs. And I think that they're definitely going to place well here.
Yeah, just a minor correction. I think I misspoke earlier when I said that Onalaska was Jared Voss and Tori Brindis. They're actually Jared Voss and Lexi Robson this year. So I don't know if Jared and Tori are doing too many groups together at this point in time. So I apologize for that. Just you reading off the choreographers there made me think of that. Ethan, a lot of good thoughts right there. What other thoughts do you have about DMC?
I think this is a good competition. And I mean, we were going to be preaching it until our faces are blue, but first competitions, they can go a little sideways. Luckily for the groups last weekend, it didn't really go sideways for anybody. It kind of went straight forward. This one, I kind of see the same thing happening, especially to the Big Fish Waukee, who everyone's eyes are on. I think they're going to take this with best vocals and best band. I'm going on a limb. Indianola, they're growing and they are getting better by the day, better by the year. Now, I'm getting a little crazy because I don't know these groups as well. So I'm just going to go best choreo with Indianola. And then I'm going to go Momentum. Which one? I'm going to go Cedar Rapids. I'll go Cedar Rapids, Washington Momentum. And then I'll go Dallas Center Grimes right behind them. And I'll go Xavier and then Norwalk to round it out.
That's super interesting predictions because in my mind, I kind of had these groups sorted into three distinct groups of two. I had Waukee and Cedar Rapids, Washington up there at the top. Then I had Indianola and Xavier there in the middle of finals and DCG and Norwalk there kind of in that third group of two. I think, the temptation is always there, especially because Indianola and Xavier are both groups that broke through to win competitions last year. But I saw a Cedar Rapids, Washington show for the first time in my life last year, and it was just such an incredibly solid show. Again, debut competition last year. So kind of same situation to this. I just don't think that I can put Cedar Rapids, Washington any lower than second. So I'll go Waukee taking all three major captions. I'll go Cedar Rapids, Washington second, Indianola third, Xavier fourth. Norwalk and Dallas Center Grimes are two super interesting groups, like 4A groups that go to hard competitions don't often get a ton of results to show for it. Kind of a toss-up for me. I'll take Dallas Center Grimes at the 5 and Norwalk at the 6. From here, we will go to the Maryville Spoof Hound Spectacular in Missouri. This is yet another inaugural competition. Seems like we've been talking about those a fair bit this episode. The earliest Missouri competition since I don't know when, but I don't remember the last time Missouri came out swinging this early in the season. They will have Pleasant Hill and Blue Valley, which is a Missouri-adjacent competition next weekend, or the January 18th weekend. In the mixed division for this one, we have Papillion La Vista Free Spirit, Scott Catholic, Vivace, Smith Cotton, New Score Singers, Oak Park, Oak Street Singers, Denison Singing Ambassadors, Chillicothe Corliers, Cameron Lights, Cameron Action, and the Hiawatha Headliners. In single gender, we have Papillion La Vista Heart and Soul and Monarchy and Oak Park Treble Effects. And in the prep division, we've got Smith Cotton, Broadway Velocity. Ethan, which of those groups do you recognize? Who stands out to you as a contender for a high placement?
This is great because you're really testing my end of the year Missouri knowledge right out the get go. Like me trying to remember who's where in the scene over there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this early is kind of making my head spin a little bit. But thank goodness Papillion La Vista's there, so I can at least name someone who I think is going to win. I've heard of all these groups before, but naming where they're going to place this early is going to be kind of hard. So I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with it. I'm going to go PLV Free Spirit Sweep. Scott Catholic right behind them in the 2. I'm going to go Smith Cotton 3, and I'm going to go PLV's Heart and Soul. And then I'm going to go Oak Park and then PLV Monarchy. Why not? So I kind of have Oak Park splitting the PLV to tier 2 groups / single gender groups. So I think this will be a fun one to check up on next week. And who knows what can actually happen here, because I do not.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you put 3 Papio groups in finals. Michael, I know this is probably way out of your wheelhouse as a New Englander, but any groups at all that you recognize from this?
So I definitely have seen a couple of Free Spirit shows, and actually I've seen more is it Papillon? Is that what we call it?
Papillion.
La Vista Monarchy more than Heart and Soul. Always love a good bass group. I actually would say that just based on keep things interesting, I would actually say Monarchy might go in front of Heart and Soul. I feel like when you have a treble group and a bass group from the same school going up against each other, there's usually that internal rivalry of who's
always.
I mean, Ethan, you could attest to this. So I think that Free Spirit will definitely sweep the competition, and I think that the other groups are going to be following suit. I've heard of most of these other groups, but I definitely cannot comment on performance and seeing how they'll end up being.
We do have a comment from the chat referencing the Missouri show choir scene in 2018. They started on 6th with the State Fair Community College Show Choir Festival. Oak Park was actually the overall winner of that competition. Some of the other groups there, Savannah High School, which no longer has a group. Cameron was the small school winner and also overall best choreography winner at that competition. Chillicothe was 3rd in small school. And that is pretty much it for the groups that were there also at this competition as well. I mean, what else can I say besides I think that Papio is going to win? I think that in year 2, both Lindsay Ussery and Meredith Leroux are still there after Tyler Buglewitz departed. So year 2 of 2 directors at Papio. Ethan, I do kind of like your idea of putting 3 Papio groups in finals. When we look at some of the other groups in here, Oak Park was kind of streaky last year. Denison is mostly mired in the 3A division at Iowa, so we don't hear a ton about them a lot of the time. Chillicothe, this is only their 2nd year back competing. Hiawatha, I don't think they competed last year at all either. Cameron, I don't know if they had a ton of placements last year. But one group that I really want to highlight is Smith Cotton. Smith Cotton used to have, I think, 3 show choir groups in the mid to late 2010s. Numbers decreased in that program a lot, especially right after the pandemic. They were down to just 1 group, the New Score Singers, for the past, I want to say 3 seasons. So it is nice to see their prep group, Broadway Velocity, coming back. So with that being said, I'll take Papio Free Spirit, all 3 captions. I'll take Smith Cotton at the 2 just because I'll take that momentum. I'll take Scut at the 3. I'll do Papio Monarchy at the 4, Oak Park, Oak Street Singers at the 5, and Papio Heart and Soul at the 6. Again, when Ethan talks about like where people are in Missouri, yeah, this is a lot of those Kansas City or even farther north than Kansas City area groups. I believe that I was actually driving through Cameron, Missouri at some point over the Thanksgiving week, and it's north of Kansas City, just kind of out there. I also drove through Chillicothe, so I guess I drove through multiple of these. It's all starting to the mile markers are starting to unblend themselves out of my memory, but it's nice to be able to run through that region and see, oh, there's show choir towns out here too. Definitely when we think of the traditional Missouri powerhouses, obviously you have Troy from St. Louis, you have Columbia with Rockbridge and Battle and a couple of those groups, and then Southwest Missouri with Webb City, Joplin, Carthage, Neosho, all that kind of deal. So when we talk about Kansas City groups, maybe a couple of them break through and get their flowers. I feel like we may have slept on Oak Park a little bit because they were streaky. They might come out of the gate swinging this year. We'll see how that goes. Moving on now to the Muscatine River City Showcase in Iowa. In the 4A division, we have Iowa City, 4th Avenue Jazz Company, El Paso Gridley Modulations, Cedar Rapids Jefferson Westside Delegation, Western Dubuque 5th Avenue, and Clinton River Royalty. In the 3A division, Pella Acapella and North Polk Nexus. And in the women's division, El Paso Gridley, Pella, and the Albia Electric A's. Only group coming in with competition experience is El Paso Gridley. They come into a competition featuring a red-hot Iowa City 4th Avenue Jazz Company from 2024. Some groups knocking on the door there as well. Pella has been known to pop off at times. Cedar Rapids Jefferson and Western Dubuque have been known to get good placements as well. Michael, I'll toss this one to you first. What's the storyline that you see coming out of this?
So Cedar Rapids Jefferson, what's their choir's name again?
West Side Delegation.
West Side Delegation. I believe that's a Ben Eklund group, if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't know about this year, but I believe last year, yes, they were.
So if I was looking at this lineup right now, I can see EPG still coming in hot with first. I don't know if they would take best choreography, though. That's a huge thing. If they're going against groups like Iowa City, who uses Lexi Robson, and Cedar Rapids Jefferson, who uses Ben Eklund, I can see them putting up a huge fight against El Paso Gridley. And then also, I'm a huge fan of Pella, too. I think Pella is definitely going to pack a punch when it comes to things this upcoming season. They've had a steady trajectory upwards post-pandemic. They've had a recent director change. I believe their director is a past Johnson director. I think the old director of Johnson Synergy.
Yep.
So I'm very excited to see what they come out and do. It's definitely a toss-up, though. I think that this is going to be very, very, very tight.
Ethan, before I absolutely unload in support of one group that I think is getting slept on, what do you have to say?
I think I stared at this lineup way too long, because then I made a prediction and I was like, "There's no way that this is happening." Like, it's so mamble jamble that makes any just all over the place. That's kind of what I see with this competition. I can see something completely crazy happening. I feel like we always have that first competition of the year where you're like, "How did that happen? How did that group get this, but they end up, here? And how did they do this and they get up here?" And I kind of see this happening at this competition. To start off at my 1, I have Iowa City with best choreo, much like Michael said. I kind of agree with that. Now, if they can pull it off, we'll see. I know first comps are hard, especially being clean. El Paso definitely has had the critique, and they've gotten the notes, especially from some really good judges. So we'll see how that goes. But I have Iowa City with best choreo. I have El Paso in the 2 with nothing. And then I have Pella in the 3 with best vocals. Pella can sing. They took choreography, I think, from last year, Wheaton South and Waconia. and they got third place. So maybe that's where I got this from. But the fact that they beat those two amazing groups in vocals kind of shifted my gears a little bit. Now they did have two competitions after that, and I don't think they got best vocals. But again, they can do it, and I believe in them. So I have them in my 3, and just to round out the 4, I have Cedar Rapids Jefferson. They're a group that could jump up here, and I would totally see it happening. I just feel like those 4 can be a little interchangeable. But I kind of see, I don't know why, but I'm kind of in love with Iowa City here. So that's my take. Will, I'm excited to see who you're rooting for.
I just think there's a lot of Iowa City High 4th Avenue Jazz Company slander going on in this podcast right now. Iowa City 4th Avenue Jazz Company is a group that last year swept Cedar Rapids, Washington. Okay, they took vocals and choreo from Davenport Central. They were right up there in finals at Waukee Northwest, hanging with Waukee and Urbandale and Ankeny Centennial. Yes, they got swept by Aberdeen Central at the end of the year, but we all have our down competition every once in a while. Iowa City is a group that if they can put together 2025 season like they did in 2024, a lot more people from Cedar Rapids and Des Moines and even outside the state of Iowa, they're going to have to learn the name Iowa City High 4th Avenue Jazz Company. Because I think for a while, Iowa City and Iowa City West and Liberty have kind of just flown under the radar, somewhere in between Davenport and Cedar Rapids. With a good 2025, I think that Iowa City can firmly establish itself as a very real center of show choir in Iowa. And yes, I know El Paso has competition under their belt. And yes, I know that Cedar Rapids Jefferson could potentially play spoiler. Pella could play spoiler. I just can't see anybody besides Iowa City winning vocals and choreo. And I'm inclined to maybe say best band. They did take 2 best band awards last year out of their 4 competitions. So I'll give them all 3. I will take El Paso Gridley at the 2. I'll go Pella at the 3, Cedar Rapids Jefferson at the 4. I'll go Western Dubuque at the 5 and North Polk at the 6, with El Paso Gridley High Fidelity barely missing out on a second straight finals appearance. We do have a comment. Muscatine has been canceled 3 of the past 5 years, so hoping for smooth competition. I don't think there's any snow in the forecast for this weekend. I really don't. So we're going to cross our fingers and hope that Muscatine can pull off a smooth event. We're going to go now to the Onalaska Show Choir Classic, going right back to Wisconsin. Huge lineup in the mixed division for this one. We have Eau Claire North, DeForest, South St. Paul, North St. Paul, Tomah, Milton, Holman, Janesville Craig, Monona Grove, Cedar Rapids Prairie, Sauk Prairie, Omaha Westside, and La Crosse. That's 13 groups. For those of you who lost track, we add in another 5 in the prep division. Those would be Medford, Milton Octave Above, Monona Grove Silver Dimension, Washburn, and Cedar Rapids Prairie Focal Point. For the non-Wisconsinites on this podcast, which of those names stand out to you? Who is going to make some noise here?
I was able to see Cedar Rapids Prairie's preview show. I think they're going to be performing very well at this competition. Between them and Omaha Westside, how can you not love the amazing Technicolor Show Choir? Especially this being Doran Johnson's last year directing. Huge Stan has done amazing things with that program. I think Omaha Westside is going to be coming in first. And I think Cedar Rapids Prairie, the ambassadors, are going to be following suit right after them. Huge fan of of Monona Grove. They did a show a couple of years ago with the Peter Pan theme, I think it was.
That was 2020, I think.
Loved it all.
That was one of the best Monona shows. That and the 2022 show, probably the 2 best Monona shows of the past 10 years. Yeah.
I think that if they pull off something like that, you could see their name pulling up. Milton. I believe they have choreography by Ellie and Dwight Jordan and Jeff Jordan.
Milton is now a Kevin Chase group.
Lovely. We love Kevin Chase too. So I could definitely see them performing very well as well. Overall, though, definitely am surprised that also Bemidji is not going to this competition for like the first time in forever, I believe. Very sad to say, but leaves a room open for these other wonderful groups on Alaska.
We do have a quick comment from the chat seconding what Michael said, watching an early video of Prairie. They will be coming in hot for sure.
Absolutely.
So I can't recall the last time that Prairie has competed in Wisconsin. So they'll definitely be a force to be reckoned with here at Onalaska. Ethan, where do you see some of this competition going?
So first off, I think it's my fault Bemidji isn't here. I think it's my fault. I made a meme last year and I thought it was funny. And it was like, it was a guy walking through the classroom with a different colored shirt every day, but saying the same thing over and over and over. And I put the caption on it. Bemidji coming to Onalaska for like the 12th straight year in a row. And of course, then they don't come here the next year. So I feel like that's all me, personally. But in the end, I mean, I need to see this video Prairie. It sounds like it's one that's can't miss. Maybe, maybe I wait to see one that's on stage and perfectly lit at this point to see what they've gone this far. But I can't pull away from Westside here. I think this is theirs to lose. I'm going to go. And after this, it kind of gets shaky because after this news of hearing about Prairie, I feel like I need to put them in the 2.
Prairie. Well, who are you going to put in the 2?
What?
Who else were you going to put in the 2?
I mean, there's 2 other groups that I played around with putting in.
Bemidji's not here, man. Choose someone else.
No, but I mean, personally, I know Prairie has a very solid group, one that's always in finals, but they always seem to go up against very strong competition. So it kind of looks like from an outside view, oh, they're just a middle of the pack group. And I mean, they definitely are not. They are just going up against some extremely good competition year after year. I was so lucky to see them in 2018. Now that feels like forever ago. So it doesn't even apply to this, but I've been lucky enough to see a Prairie show. I'm going to put them in the 2. And my next one might surprise people. I'm going to put La Crosse in the 3. I think my biases are coming into play now. Oh my goodness. Me and Nathan are on the same page. I have La Crosse in my 3. I don't know what it is. Now again, Toma had a fantastic season last year, and they're the one that I think that could flip-flop with La Crosse. But again, I mean, starting off on a whole new page, it's a whole new chapter in the Toma story. Can they repeat what they did with the whole Popeye stuff last year? We will see after this weekend. So I have them in my 4, Toma, and then Sauk Prairie the 5, and North St. Paul in the 6. I was kind of playing around with the Monona Grove after Michael said that. But for now, I don't think I should change anything. I'm just going to stick with North St. Paul.
Oh, boy. All right. You guys were talking, and I was like, oh, crap. I'm kind of having second thoughts about some stuff. I need to go look at what my prediction on showchoir.com is. Then I go over there, and I'm like, I haven't made a prediction for this competition on showchoir.com. I'm really behind third base right now. So honestly, like, there are just so many interesting storylines here. Ethan mentioned Toma and seeing if they can put together another wonderful season like they had last year. We have North St. Paul in their first season after Kim Allswager. We have Monona Grove, who really suffered an identity crisis. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was not a great first half of the season for Monona Grove last year. The second half of the season got better. They had a really solid showing at Western Dubuque in late February, but the Monona Grove of early 2024 was not the Monona Grove I was used to seeing. So Monona Grove, seeing if they can start off the season a lot better than they did last year. I'll throw Janesville Craig in that boat as well. Janesville Craig, new director last year, didn't make finals at all, which was super surprising to me after how they'd been doing the first couple of years after the pandemic. So I really am kind of at a loss. And this is awful because I feel like I've been podcasting about Wisconsin Show Choir for 5 seasons. And yet you just toss a 13 group lineup at me. And I'm like, okay, I fold. I'll put Omaha Westside in first. I'll have them take vocals, choreo band, the whole shebang. I'll go Cedar Rapids Prairie in second. I will put La Crosse in third. I think some of that competition experience is going to be a big factor here. I'll put Toma in fourth. I will actually put Milton Correlation fifth. Milton is a group that was kind of the opposite of Monona Grove last year. They were not able to make the trip to La Crosse last year because of the snow, or to Onalaska, La Crosse area. this weekend, but they really came on strong in the closing part of the season, put on some really good placements. And when you look at where Milton Correlation was in 2023 compared to where they were in 2024, it was a huge jump, and I expect them to continue climbing. So I'll put Milton at the 5, and I will have Sauk Prairie at the 6 to round out my predictions. Sauk Prairie, for those of you keeping count, is doing Jesus Christ Superstar this year. That is their showsicle for the year. Certainly some creative costume choices, I will say. But Sauk Prairie shows they really do evolve throughout the season. There's a noticeable difference week by week for those shows. And so I think they'll improve a fair bit from where they were at Holman this past season. This past week. Anyways, my brain was already into the transition. We've got 5 minutes left in the show. We've got one competition left to cover. And honestly, it's probably the best lineup of the week. And this is the Sioux Falls Jefferson Classic. We have in the mixed division, Del Rapids, Vermilion, St. Francis, O'Gorman, Waukee Northwest, Sioux Falls, Roosevelt, Lewis Central, Lincoln Northwest, Sioux Falls, Washington, Aberdeen Central, and Waconia. We have women's groups from Roosevelt, Washington, Aberdeen, and Lewis Central. And we have Lincoln Southwest's prep group there as well. Obviously, the marquee headlining matchup, Waukee Northwest, Waconia, Lincoln Southwest. Ethan, I'm sure you know how many GCs there are between the three of them last season, but it's a three-headed monster, and I'm curious to see who you guys think is going to come out on top here.
Oh,
You can
Yes.
go, Michael.
Oh, sorry.
My bad.
Froze for me for a second. So while I'm looking at this lineup right here, I'm very intrigued to say I actually am putting Lincoln Southwest as first. I'm saying Waconia second and Waukee Northwest as third. Everyone is going to come after me for this.
We have been run amok, led astray, and flat out deceived.
I think that I'm going to be the one who causes the drama. I think that this is going to be a very tight year for a lot of Iowa groups who have been on top for the longest time. I feel like shaking it up and saying that Lincoln, after seeing the Chicken Little show last year and predicting what they have this upcoming year, I think Lincoln Southwest is going to perform very, very well. And then also as a Waconia stan, I can't bear to put Waconia under second. They had a wonderful show last year as well. It's maybe because I'm biased towards non-story shows, and that's kind of why I put Waukee Northwest as third. Coming in fourth, I would probably say Sioux Falls, Washington, and in fifth, Lewis Central Corporation. A lot of good mixes of Kevin Chase groups I see lined up, so it's gonna be an interesting one for sure.
Ethan, do you agree? Do you disagree? What is the hoodwinked and bamboozled blasphemy of Waukee Northwest in third place?
I don't know, because it's funny because I can't wait to see what you say, Will, especially after I know what my prediction is and what Michael just said. Mine is completely different. And I feel bad because I'll just go off the list. Here we go. Might as well just get to it.
Oh.
Waconia winning was best choreography. Waukee Northwest was best vocals in second. 3, Aberdeen Central. 4, Lincoln Southwest. And that feels criminal. But their show last year, I feel like carried them a lot, and it fit them perfectly. I think that show was perfect for Lincoln Southwest. It's kind of hard to see a show that levels up to that, which doesn't really apply to this competition because, I mean, who knows who has what. So I'm excited to see what it is, and I'm excited to be wrong. And since I know I'm already wrong, I put Sioux Falls Roosevelt in my 5, and because I like these groups, and then O'Gorman in my 6. I love O'Gorman Ovation. So this is going to be a competition that's going to tell us a lot very early in the year to see how this season goes along. So this is the one to keep your eyes on, folks, this week.
Well, I am the hot take man. I am the prediction man, and that's what I will be doing. I will be taking Waukee Northwest with 2 captions. I'll give them vocals. I'll give them choreo. I'll put Lincoln Southwest in 2nd place with best band. I will put Aberdeen Central in 3rd place, and I will put Waconia in 4th place. I will put Sioux Falls Roosevelt in 5th place, and I will also go with Lewis Central. I will go with Lewis Central in 6th. A couple notes about this one. I just feel like there are a few South Dakota groups that people just kind of sleep on because they get hot at different points. Aberdeen just lit up to start the season last year, and they maybe, I don't know if trailed off as much as everyone else caught up to them. Sioux Falls Roosevelt was kind of the opposite of that, and early indications are that Sioux Falls Roosevelt is going to be starting the season better than they did last year. Not 100% sure until anyone hits the stage, but that's at least what the indications are looking like. I very seriously did consider putting O'Gorman as my 6, but Lewis Central, some years they're on it, some years they're not. I'm going to bet that this year is a year that Lewis Central is on the ball. Michael, circling back to you, do you have bones to pick with either Ethan or I?
I'm actually, because I read my list in front of me way too fast, I got to replace Sioux Falls, Washington with Aberdeen Central. Just because they were killer last year. So I'm still standing strong with Lincoln Southwest coming in first. It's going to be a toss-up between Waukee Northwest and Waconia, though. I don't know. Just because I've never seen Midwest Show Choir live other than a couple Illinois groups and Ohio groups here and there. I know that some of these choirs just sound so amazing and just dance their butts off on a constant. So I'm definitely intrigued to see what happens at Sioux Falls, Jefferson. I don't want to keep saying that it's tight, but a lot of these competitions are tight, for me at least. So very, very excited to see.
Those top 4 spots are going to be nail biters, I think.
Absolutely.
Mere points.
Yes. Well, it seems like the margins get closer every year, you know. They're probably, I mean, maybe Marysville aside, there's probably several competitions where we're talking about the points are going to be like that.
Right.
So with that being said, we're going to hope for no snow this weekend. This weekend last year was the big Snowmageddon that cleaned out pretty much all of Midwest Show Choir, save for about half the groups that were going to go to Onalaska. And I think Blue Valley was maybe this weekend last year, except they just didn't do finals. So with that, we are a couple minutes over time, so we're going to close the show. For Michael and Ethan, I'm William. Make sure to catch us right back here next week, Monday at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. If you are competing this weekend, break a leg. If you are watching this weekend, have a phenomenal time. And with that, we'll see you next week on Show Choir Nation, the flagship podcast of the Homeroom Show Choir Network.